The Bella Vista Gardening Program. I am Geri Hoerner, and today joining me is Terry Weiderhaft, and she's a fellow Benton County Master Gardener extraordinaire. I put that in there. And today we're going to be updating you on the Helping Hands Food Pantry and the garden we do for them. And we've had a couple years of updates, and every year it's more exciting and more.
I think this might be my fifth show. It's at least my fourth show.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
Might be my fifth. I'm not sure.
It's a very good program that's really taken hold. It really has. And also we're going to be talking about what to do in your garden in November. But first I want to thank our two sponsors, the Bella Vista Garden Club and the Benton County Master Gardeners that are members of the Bella Vista Community TV station. At the director's level. So we are so fortunate to have that support, and they've contributed, to the show for years and years, and now they're officially our sponsors. So I want to thank them. Anyway, today we're going to discuss that Helping Hands Pantry Garden, which has been one of the best projects that the Benton County Master Gardeners have done, and it was award-winning last year. We won a state award.
In 2020, we were the state project of the year for Master Gardeners. For
that's something.
75 counties,
right.
We won.
And a lot of projects.
Yeah, that was neat.
But this is an ongoing project that we have been working on for, I don't know.
2016 is when we got involved.
16 we started.
Yeah.
Gosh, it just seems like a couple of years ago. And Terry has just been at the helm of this committee, and usually you'll have a leader that'll be, a leader for a couple of years, and Terry's just taken this and gone with it and won't let it go, and it's wonderful. But the brief history of the garden, we probably should tell some people about where it started.
Okay, so I'll start out with Helping Hands, which they're a local organization that's been around over 40 years. They're a thrift store that all the proceeds that they have, they're a nonprofit, all the proceeds go back out into the community, things like rent and utilities and things that people need help with.
Right.
That's their mission for the last 40 years.
So people go there and apply for different things they need help with.
People in the county can go and get help with things that they need. And I don't know exactly when, but they've had a food pantry for many years.
Yeah.
They didn't initially have it, but I think they've had it for 20 years, probably at least, a food pantry. And I believe it to be, if not the biggest food pantry in the county, it's one of them.
Yeah, there's several food pantries.
Yeah, they do 30 families a day, 5 days a week. So at the end of the month, it's like 600 families have been through there. So in 2013, I believe, they're on a big plot of land where they are.
Right.
So in 2013, one of their volunteers in their food pantry took on trying to set up a garden on their land that the food would go through the pantry.
Don't they have about 5 acres out there?
Yes, they do. It's a nice lot.
Yeah.
And so it was actually Michelle Stamps-Pritchett, who at the time was not a master gardener, but she helped in the food pantry. And she did a great job in getting a lot of the infrastructure set up, a fenced-in area. She had 20 raised beds set up, wood-framed raised beds, and had soil in about half of them. Where she was running into difficulty was getting gardeners to go out there all year.
Yeah.
So they, for like 3 years, had a garden with some success, but they were struggling labor-wise, was their biggest struggle. And in 2016 then, C.W. Doss was actually the master gardener who got us involved with Helping Hands. And so 2016 was the first year Master Gardeners was at the Helping Hands.
Right, but there
garden.
was a church also involved in
Yes,
the early years, too.
Yes, and they're still there. The
still-
7-Day, Michelle is, among other things, she belongs to the 7-Day Adventist Church in Bentonville. And so they were her main source of labor before we showed up. And they're still involved. They have, I think, 6 beds out there, so they're a great partner.
Yeah.
But then in 2016, Master Gardeners showed up. At that time, there were 20 raised beds. A lot of them needed more soil and compost,
Yeah,
and so that was our
amendments,
that was our first mission. The first year was getting the soil and the compost in there, and that was actually also the first year they actually had a hydrant in the garden.
Oh, with water.
They had done it for like 3 years without a hydrant. They were stringing a hose across the
God.
parking lot. And, it was, so we got a hydrant in. We got Master Gardeners involved, got soil in all the beds. And so 2016 was our first
That's a big
year.
opening year.
Yes. And since then, so now 2022 was the 7th year. So we've been out there 7 years now. And we've added
So how many
50,
beds?
we're over 70 beds.
70 beds now.
Yep,
okay.
70 raised beds. They're not all vegetables. We have ornamentals. We have
Well, we started out with just like tomatoes and a few vegetables.
the first year it was basically about as basic as you can get. Tomatoes, squash, beans.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah. And
But-
now we have so many varieties, along with the pollinator gardens.
Yes.
Some of the beds are pollinators to pollinate all these vegetables.
We have three different areas where we have pollinator beds. And really, in total, it's a large pollinator area.
Yeah.
But then we have the vegetable beds. Then we also have, we brought in blackberries,
Right.
which I don't know how aware people are, but the University of Arkansas is one of the bigger blackberry research.
Oh, yeah. They're hybridizing all kinds.
They
of-
develop
yeah,
all kinds of blackberries.
Yeah.
And what we actually have out at the garden is a hybrid from the university, Natchez. And they're thornless.
That's a help.
Just,
Helps.
yeah, I'm not sure we'd have them if they were thornless. So we got thornless blackberries out there. We have blueberries, strawberries.
And then we got to have figs now,
So
because Andrea's doing that fig. She's working on a fig program.
yes,
So
yeah, Andrea, who was a past president just a couple years ago,
Yeah.
she was our president of Master Gardeners. This year took on a fig patch.
right.
First time we've had figs out there. And I should have counted better. I know there's 4 rows. I think it was 20 figs.
Yeah.
I think there were 5 in each
But
row.
where do we go to a food pantry and get fresh figs? Anywhere, nowhere except this food pantry.
Yes, so this was our first year. So they did not go in the ground until like May of this year. And I forget, I should have looked up the exact number. But we got quite a few pounds of, first year, quite a
Yeah.
few pounds of figs
That's
that went
great.
into the food pantry.
Well, I know that they, I don't, do you know how many varieties of things we grow now? Just like 5 or 10 or 15 different things?
So I have and I didn't count it, but I've got a spreadsheet where anytime I get a report, like every time we do a harvest, which we try to from Memorial Day to Labor Day, try to have somebody go through the garden 5 days a week, Monday through
And it
Friday.
goes right into the pantry.
Yeah, whatever they harvest that day, we weigh. We'll weigh everything that we get, and then we are literally
200 yards away or
not even that.
Yeah.
Probably less than 100 yards away from the food pantry itself. So depending on the day, it's either you take a couple buckets over, or if it's a big day, you get the wagon out, fill it up, and take it over and drop it off the food pantry. And a lot of times, because it gets hot in the summer.
Oh, yeah. This was a terrible summer.
Oh my gosh. But the harvesters like to be out 7, 8, before the sun gets hot.
yeah.
So a lot of times we're out 7, 8 in the morning doing the harvesting. The food gets into the pantry by 9 o'clock, let's say, and I think they open at 10. So the pantry, I think, is open like 10 to 3 over
Yeah.
there, 5 days a week. So people are literally, who come into the pantry that day, literally get stuff that was picked an hour before.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so
really
it's really
is.
cool. It's
Yeah.
really a good setup.
And I know we also, I think the Master Gardeners gave out some recipes how to use some of these vegetables, because people didn't, they just don't get fresh vegetables often,
Yes, so
and they don't know what to do with them.
I'll give
you know?
credit to Gwen Williams has been the person who's headed that up,
Yeah.
who has worked with the people in the food pantry about, what sort of information would be good, and has put together some single-page handouts. And actually, one of her discoveries in talking to people in the pantry and the clients who come in to get the food was there is a fair amount of the clients who, aren't used to having fresh vegetables
No.
in the house. So
They're used to opening a can.
they're used to opening a
Right,
can.
yeah.
So she actually had a single page on just kind of basic hygiene of just washing stuff off in the sink
Yeah.
and putting it in the refrigerator and things like that.
Well, I think
So-
that's one of the reasons too we got the award, because it's not just growing food; it's helping the people use it.
Yep.
You can grow a lot of food, and if it's not used, it's not
Yep.
good. Now, the Master Gardeners at Harvest, they don't get to take anything home. They have to put it all into the pantry. And there's also some Master Gardeners that are growing things at home and donating it.
Right. We started, this was our third year, so it would have been in 2019. We started actively soliciting gardeners, and we try to get the word out in April or whatever to give people, put the thought in the Master Gardeners' heads that if they've got an extra bed at home, set that bed aside and put whatever you put in there, kind of tag it that you're going to take it into the food
Right.
pantry. And so we've had, this year participation wasn't as good this year as a couple of the last
This was
years.
probably one of the worst years to grow vegetables. We had the heat, we had the drought. I mean, it was just a brutal year. And
yeah.
considering that, I think we still
But
did
we
pretty
still
well.
had 3 or 4 people who probably at least once a week either took produce that they had specifically grown for the pantry in and dropped it off, or probably what was more common is we probably have another 4 or 5 people that, you always have the time of year when you've got more than you can
Got
use.
too many cucumbers.
Got too many or the squash.
Yeah,
The
the
squash did good or whatever type things. So people did drop off their excess at the pantry too. So
Yeah.
it's,
Well, I hate to say it, I was hoping by sometime in the future we won't have to do this for people, that they'll have enough food, but it doesn't look like that's the case. And like I said, you've been doing this for years, and we've also added some things to the garden. You had an irrigation system.
yeah, so from when we started, it was basically we had a hydrant and 20 beds and some hoses type thing. So we've added a lot of beds. We added the irrigation system actually in 2017, which has been wonderful. We
You
could
can't-
not have
yeah.
done anything we did out there.
You have
without
to have
that.
the irrigation.
Yeah, in Northwest Arkansas, yeah. We added, I think it was about 3-4 years ago, a nice tool shed. We have it's called the Blue Barn,
The blue barn, because it's blue.
which
not
is great. We have a place to put all of our storage area, and that's where we weigh the vegetables. All
Keep
the
track.
supplies you could ever need
Yeah.
are in there. And it actually has a nice little front porch area, which is nice 8-foot area that's shaded. Up until about 3 months ago, that was the one place you could get shade in the garden.
Right.
Is in the shed. But this year, largely as a result of we had a really good plant sale in the spring.
Past few years, we've
Yes,
had
we've
wonderful
had.
plants.
Yeah, we've had 3 or 4 really
the Master
good ones.
Gardeners, yeah.
And this year, the decision was made with the money that we had available to us to put up a pavilion in the
Right.
garden. So we have a 20 by 40 pavilion that just went up like 2 months ago.
Right.
We've got picnic tables and benches in it. So that's going to be our outdoor meeting place
Right.
going forward.
And then about a month ago, there was a sign put up on this pavilion. It's been designated the Terry Weiderhaft Pavilion. So
Totally unnecessary, but it was fun. It was fun. People had fun doing it.
nobody, works as hard as you do in that garden. You've just so many uncountable hours. So
I hope it didn't jinx the building. I hope it doesn't get blown over now or something.
Well,
We'll
gonna.
see.
Well, and then we also put tables in there.
Yes,
some picnic
yes,
tables.
there's some picnic tables. We put some nice landscaping cloth down. So going forward, that it's going to be a meeting place for
Right.
us. But probably the main impetus for us putting it in this year was we want to use that as our education
Right.
place. We had this year, we had 3 like 1 hour education sessions where we invited the public and the master gardeners and had a speaker and kind of tried to do out in the garden where it's almost hands-on,
Right.
type things.
But we do a lot of youth things there too. Didn't we just with the kids? And
Yes. And let me come back to that.
Okay.
But as we were doing those sessions this year, all 3 of them were either, sun and, we were struggling for where to set up to where
Yeah.
people wasn't staring into the sun or getting
Yeah.
beaten down. And so now with our pavilion, that excuse is gone. We can
Or
have
sun or rain, we
section-
can be at,
sun
yeah.
or rain, we're good.
Okay.
So, and then back to the kids, that's actually been probably what I would, our number one, well, there's 2 dual missions, kind of, as I see it, for the garden. One is because we're on the Helping Hands property.
Right.
They're our landlord. They let us use the land without
Play
any
in the dirt.
charge, anything like that. So one is donating the vegetables to their food pantry, which is a great community service.
Right.
So that's our one mission. And then the second mission, because we're master gardeners, education is our number one
Right.
reason for being.
Right.
We're part of the university system.
That's what we're there for, is to
That's how we
educate.
got
Yeah.
established. That's our whole reason for
Yeah.
being. So, so education has always been part of our mission, and probably what we've done best in the garden is the kids program.
Yeah.
We did not have it the first year. The second year, we kind of got it going. We were struggling, and what we finally got smart about was we recruited Michelle Stamps Pritchett to become a master gardener.
Yeah.
And as soon as we got Michelle in the group, then we had our leader for the kids program.
Right.
That's what she really enjoys doing, is working with the kids.
Yeah. Well, that's where you have to start. I mean, the kids have to know that you just don't open a can and they don't grow in that can, and you have to start the kids in gardening to get
And-
them started.
Yeah, and so she's out there, like her last couple years, and I think it's going to be her ongoing way she's going to do it. She goes out, she has a regular schedule, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock. She's in the garden. The group that she's currently working with, and basically she's been working with all along, is homeschool kids from Benton County. She's a homeschool mom, so she's got the network.
Right.
And the homeschool kids, and I hope I don't say this wrong, I think I've got it right. It's almost, the garden is a project for part of their schoolwork. They get credit for that. It's almost like a 4-H type
Yeah.
project. So those kids, they want to be there. It's part
Well,
of
they
their
want to be with other
curriculum.
kids too.
Yes.
Homeschooling.
Yes,
it,
and it's
it
a great
isolates them a little.
socialization
Yeah.
thing for them. So it's the homeschool kids. And I try to get out there some when they're out there. I happen to go out this year, and every time you go out, there's something
Really
that
fun.
makes you feel good about being out there. And this year, I just happened to be out there, and one of the moms who she had brought her 2 kids are part of the program, so she's there every time and helps out a little bit, but she's more as an observer. She's not really. And so we're just sitting there, and I ask her something about, her kids enjoy the program. And she goes, let me tell you something. And so her mom lives in Iowa, so it's the kid's grandma. And just the week before, the grandma had said, I'm coming down for 3 or 4 days, be there on Saturday morning type thing, okay. So the lady said she's talking to her kids, mom's, the day before, says, Mom, your grandma's coming in on Saturday. What kind of things should we do with her type thing? And both kids, their first answer was, we want to take her out to the garden and show her our vegetable beds.
Oh.
And so she said when her mom showed up Saturday morning, the first thing they did, the kids got in the car and they drove out to the garden. And she said they spent an hour showing her all the stuff they do in the garden.
They're so proud when they grow things.
And that
They
just,
really
oh
are.
my gosh, when you hear stories like that.
Touches your heart.
Yeah.
It does.
You want to go out there every day
Yeah.
and do stuff. So.
Okay, and then we do keep track of the poundage of all
Yes,
this.
we do.
So I
Yes,
think
we
we
do.
updated
Yeah,
last year, but
Yeah, I kind of want to get
this year
the
was not a
records.
good year because of the heat and
It-
the drought and the bugs were just terrible.
Yeah,
too.
so this year out of the garden, we did 2,159 pounds out of the garden. And then you had mentioned the home produce, which that was 396 pounds. So for the year, we donated 2,555 pounds to the pantry.
Okay.
Now,
Now that's a lot of poundage. When you think of like a head of lettuce, what does a head of lettuce weigh?
I don't
It's
know,
not
but
much, but
it always
it's the
sounds
volume.
impressive to me when you can say a ton.
a ton.
So it was, 500. It was a ton plus 500 pounds
Right.
went in there. So we've done it for 7 years now, and our 7-year total is 17,800 pounds. So we're almost at, if we were at 18, that would be
tons.
9 tons. So we've done over a ton a year on average. But like you say, this was far from our best year.
Yeah.
110-degree heat.
Almost.
Tomatoes will not set blooms, or
No,
if they set,
no,
they fall
they
off.
fall off.
So it was hard on the tomatoes. It was hard on the squash. A lot of things. It was hard.
And in addition to the blueberries, don't we have other berries out there too? We have.
We have the two things that have done well the last 3 or 4 years are strawberries.
Yeah.
Which,
strawberries.
and I'm going to apologize ahead. I'm just going to call her Nancy C. Zablitsky.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
a master gardener. She's done the strawberries now. I think this is her 4th year. She does a great job. So we get good strawberries out of there. And she even, when she comes out and harvests, she even gets the little plastic containers
like
that
they
you
do
get
in
in
the
the
store?
supermarket.
Yeah.
So when the people come into the food pantry, they're like getting produce just like it came out of the grocery, except it's fresher.
It's fresher. Yeah. It was picked that day instead of 2 weeks earlier. Yeah.
So the strawberries, and then the blackberries I mentioned before. We have the blackberries have done well.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think putting more trees in. Are they putting more trees
So,
in?
so last fall we spent, we had like probably 4 or 5 work days in the garden. And the 2 big things we did was we prepared the fig area. So that was all prepared. And then we also planted apple trees. So I think we've got like 12 apple trees out there right now. But we planted, they were just 1-year-old trees.
It'll be a while before we get apples.
It's probably, I think what I heard was don't plan on anything before like the 5th year.
Yeah.
So we're through, they were 1-year-old when we got them. I think we're through 2 years. So now
couple
maybe
more
in 3
years,
years
yeah.
we'll be getting some apples.
Yeah.
We hope so.
But that's a good future project, so do the apples. So, so what's the plans coming now for the future besides the apples? What are there?
So I would say, we've probably since last 7 years, we've been kind of heavy on what I would call infrastructure, adding beds, the berries, our shed, our pavilion, all those things. I think the next year or two, it's going to be concentrating on education, getting our education program going, getting more people involved in that. And I think we want to get more community involvement in the garden if we
Right.
can. The teaching sessions, and just having people come out and see what we do in the
Right,
garden.
how we do it, because some people
Yes.
don't know how to grow a garden. They
Yes.
don't know where to start.
Even if it's not an official teaching session, if we just have people come out and tour the
And
garden,
learn, yeah.
we have informational signs. And if you're walking around with another gardener for 30 minutes, you're going to learn things.
You are. We love to share that information.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
just
we
walking
do.
around with a gardener is the best. Doing and seeing are the
Yes,
ways
it
to
helps,
learn.
yeah.
So,
Well, it's such a fantastic program, and I just commend you for all the hours and hours and hours you've been there, dedicated your life to this almost.
well, no,
You know,
and we get a lot. We have right now, and it changes over the years. We have 3 or 4 people who spend
Just
more hours than I do.
the
out
backbone
there.
of the
Yeah,
garden.
Yeah,
So.
the Kim Herzick and Mike Mazzalia and even Andrea. I mean,
Oh, Andrea's
there's some
really-
people that
yeah.
spend a lot of hours.
Yeah. Well, it's a very worthwhile project. So, and we thank you so much for heading that up. So, but in November, it's time to do something in your garden in November. It's time to put it to bed, basically. So, you just have to get ready to trim if you want to trim and do things like that, clean up things, get ready for next year. Like the annuals and herbs, they're basically the annuals are gone. We've had a freeze already, like one good freeze. So, but you can put your pansies out if you're gardening and you want to do winter color. Perennials, there's still some mums with color, and some cut back their mums and all their perennials, and some don't. You know, some people just leave it growing for the wildlife and seeds and whatever. So the only thing you really shouldn't cut back is your salvia. We talked about this at the last Gardener Club, Master Gardener meeting. If you cut your salvia, it's like a straw. It's a hollow stem, and the water will get down there, freeze, and it'll kill your plants. So you don't want to cut your salvia back. And there may be some other plants that have a hollow stem. So if you see a hollow stem, don't cut it back. It's not good for the plant. And but you have to monitor your water. Water was just not there. The rain wasn't there this year. We've had terrible drought.
Yeah.
But just monitor your plants for water and be sure that they're not too dry, even in the winter.
And then your lawns are another
Lawns.
thing you want to get ready for fall. Cut it back 2 or 3 inches, I think
Yeah.
most people. And recommended if you're wanting your lawn to not get smothered out, to get the leaves off
Oh,
of
got to
it.
get the leaves off.
And that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Shredded leaves are a great cover for your garden.
Absolutely.
So I clear off my vegetable beds, shred up my leaves, and put 2 or 3 inches
yeah.
on top. It keeps the weeds out, keeps the soil moist,
That's,
and then they're part of the soil.
yeah. Well, like Tony Lacassi says, don't let a leaf, leave your garden. You got every leaf should stay on your property, in one form or another. So that's good. And roses, we did have one freeze, and it's good to mulch them after the first couple freezes. So, and you don't want to trim them yet, but unless they're really tall and you're afraid they're going to rock in the wind, maybe trim them a few feet. But the roses, just be sure they're mulched good. And perennials, you can divide a lot of your perennials now before the ground gets too frozen or get frozen. So you can divide your hostas, and you can plant your fall planting, like
And I think you still, like trees and shrubs, you can still put in.
I
It's
think
getting
so.
close.
Yeah, as
You
long
wanna
as the
do 'em in
ground's not frozen,
Yeah.
you can plant. It's a good time to plant trees.
To
and
get your
shrubs.
trees and shrubs in.
Then they can spend the winter, setting those roots and
then
getting established.
The one thing to watch on those is if it's dry,
gotta
they'll
water.
need some water.
Yeah,
But if you've got the snow and it does decent,
Yeah.
you don't want to drown
Well,
them.
I
but-
did see that the persimmons this year have a spoon. Well, it's an old wives' tale. Whatever the inside of the persimmon looks like, that's what the weather you're going to have. And it was a spoon, I think, which means a lot of snow.
Okay.
If it's a fork, I think it's a lot of rain. And if it's a knife, it's going to be cold.
So the snow is good for the moisture.
Snow is good. And we don't need any more knives. We had enough cold winters here the past couple of years. So anyway, and the vegetables, like I said, you just have to get your vegetable gardens cleaned up and mulched and, you know, put your amendments down for next year.
Yes, that's the thing I forgot to say.
But the main thing is to enjoy the fall color. The fall color this year was surprising since we had so many droughts and it was so dry. I didn't expect nearly the color we had. We had beautiful color this year. And it didn't last long. It came and went pretty quick, I think, this year.
Yeah, I think there's
there's
still areas you could go
Yeah,
and
there's a few
look.
standout trees here
Yeah.
and there that just take your breath away, but you know, it was a surprise. I didn't expect that. And if you have any questions about gardening in November, you can go to the Bella Vista Garden Club website, and we have a lot of information there, along with the Master Gardener website. That's bentoncountygardening.org, and it's got a lot of information about gardening.
And
So.
I'll throw this in, I don't know. The Facebook page for Master Gardeners
yeah.
in Benton County is really good. They do a nice job of
Yeah.
keeping that current.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of information
Right.
there.
I think it's probably easier to keep those Facebook pages up to date than the website. So the Facebook pages have a lot of good information, so current information.
Yes.
So. And then we can go to the Bella Vista Garden Club. They have a page on their homepage. They have what to do in your garden for that month. So, and the next meeting in the Master Gardeners, people are always welcome to our meetings. The next meeting is going to be in February 7th. It's first Tuesday. So we won't have any more meetings this year, but in January we don't meet. So February 7th, watch for that. And Bella Vista Garden Club, their next meeting is going to be in January of 2023. And they meet at the Community Church, Bella Vista Community Church at 9:30. So anyway, thank you, Terry, for coming and sharing this update. I always want to hear about the garden.
Thank you for having me.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful gift that we're giving. And the Master Gardeners has just been tremendous in helping hands with their food pantry. So we love that. So, and I hope you've enjoyed the show, and you'll tune in again next month. And until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.